Good day, brothers and sisters. Our devotion today is taken from 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verses 23 to 26. For I pass on to you what I have received from the Lord Himself. On the night when He was betrayed, the Lord Jesus took some bread and gave thanks to God for it. Then He broke it in pieces and said, "This is my body which is given for you. Do this in remembrance of me." In the same way, He took the cup of wine after supper, saying, "This cup is the new covenant between God and His people. On agreement confirmed with my blood, do this in remembrance of me as often as you drink it. For every time you eat this bread and drink this cup, you are announcing the Lord's death until He comes again." This is the wonderful passage that churches normally quote when engaging in the ordinance that is commonly known as the Holy Communion. But what is it for when performing good Bible study? It is important to slow down and observe the text carefully, to take note of some keywords, repetitions, or metaphors. Let's look at the first metaphor that jumps out in the first phrase, where He takes the bread and breaks it and says that the bread is symbolic of His body, which is going to be broken and turned to pieces and will be given to you. This speaks of Christ's body being turned through torture and suffering on the cross. But just like bread sustains life as it is broken to pieces and eaten, so too was His body destroyed for us to be source of life for those who believe. The second phrase is where He takes wine. After they had eaten dinner, He says that the wine symbolized His blood. In the ancient world, many agreements were made in blood to symbolize the seriousness of the pact. In the same manner, Christ's blood was the price for the agreement that God would make with His people. He made into effect this agreement when His blood was spilled on the cross, so that just as a drinking together symbolizes unity and relationship, so did His blood on the cross makes a new relationship happen between God and men. Notice that it was from one bread and one cup that everyone was to eat and drink from. This symbolized the uniqueness and holiness of Christ, and the unity of the believers who would partake in the holy act of the new covenant, hence the Holy Communion of believers. Secondly, notice that in both instances, Christ gave thanks to God for both. Don't miss this. He gave thanks to God for the terrible things though were about to happen to Himself, but at the same time, He gave thanks to God for what wonderful gift of life would be granted to all who believe in Him and took part in this union. What is our response? The answer is clear. We are to remember in both instances. Christ says, "Do this as often as you can to remember Him." Remember His great and terrible sacrifice of both body and blood that brought us life and a relationship with God in the new covenant. Why? Because as often as we do these things, we are announcing the gospel. We are announcing the Lord's life and relationship, giving, death, and resurrection until He comes back. May the Lord find us announcing this great truth in Holy Communion at His coming.